Welcome to the DAZN Boxing Show presented by AutoZone. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the former junior middleweight champion, Sergio Mora. And Sergio, we've got a good one over in the UK this weekend. The rematch between Katie Taylor and Chantelle Cameron. All the belts at 140 pounds on the line. Chantelle Cameron handed Katie Taylor the first loss of her professional career. Her first loss since the Olympics back in 2016, earlier this year. Now they are going to do it one more time in Dublin at 3 Arena live on DAZN. So let's start with the fact that this fight is even taking place. Katie Taylor is the biggest star in women's boxing. She is the money woman in women's boxing. She could have done everything or anything. She is now going to take on Chantelle Cameron in an immediate rematch. Do you think this was the right decision?
First of all, Katie Taylor has done everything and anything that she wanted and was thrown her way, from Olympic gold medal to becoming undisputed to being a part of the fight of the year that not only should have been fight of the year, period, in men's and women's boxing, but was so entertaining that everyone was talking about it. If anything, that's the rematch we should have saw. But instead, she took an interim fight, another one against Karen Carbajal. I think that should have been her last hurrah, Mannix. Honestly, I mean, hindsight's 2020. We all know that. But every great champion, legend, they die hard. They have no other choice because they think they have that other fight in them, that next fight in them, that next payday in them. It doesn't work out and it doesn't turn out well, no matter how great you are, because time is not going to be on your side. I think Katie Taylor is going to have a very difficult time in fighting someone that's younger, stronger, bigger, and has her number, I think. I think Chantelle Cameron has her number. It's going to be very difficult to overcome, and I just don't like this fight. But like I said, it's happening. I wish the legend well. I'll be watching. I just don't think the outcome's going to be favorable for her.
Wait, you wanted Katie Taylor to retire? Is that what you're saying?
I wanted her to call it a career, yeah. After her undefeated fight against Karen Carbajal, I think that would have been a perfect hurrah, a Andre Ward type goodbye, a Floyd Mayweather Jr. type of goodbye, where you win the Olympic medal, you win everything you could possibly win as a professional, you make the money, you became a legend. Say goodbye at the highest terms, man. It's the hardest thing to do, but very few do it. Very few do it. And when they do it, they become immortalized as not only boxers, but legends outside and inside the ring. They can be spokesperson. They can be doing all these other things outside the ring that they're doing to make boatloads of money because they kept their name intact and they left at the highest level. Hard to do, though.
Well, I don't think that Katie Taylor needed to or needs to retire. She's still, if not at the top of her game, close to it. I mean, she lost that fight to Chantelle Cameron. I agree, Cameron was the deserved winner in that fight, but let's not act like it was a blowout. It was 95-95 on one judge's scorecards, and the other two had it 96-94. So she was very much in that fight. If she had gotten off to a faster start, she might have had a chance to pull off the decision. And Katie Taylor is a woman with a lot of lucrative options to choose from. And that's where I maybe diverge from Katie Taylor. I'm not sure I would have taken the immediate rematch with Chantelle Cameron at 140. Cameron was the bigger fighter. She is physically more imposing in the ring than Katie Taylor. It's why Katie was fighting off her back foot for most of that first fight. If I was Taylor, I would have gone back down to 135. I would have pursued that long-awaited rematch with Amanda Serrano, which would have been more lucrative for Taylor, whether it was in the U.S. or over in Ireland. I might have fought Alicia Baumgardner, who is dealing with her own problems right now, but at one point, undisputed champion at 130, she could have fought, moved up to 135 and fought Katie Taylor. Michaela Mayer, another woman that has some popularity in the U.S., that would have been a good fight as well. So I don't think Katie Taylor should have retired at all. I don't think she should retire. I know she's 37, but I think she still has a couple of good years left in her. And fortunately for her, there are some very high profile, very lucrative fights left out there for her. And I mean, it sounds like you're suggesting, Sergio, that she's a diminished product, that she's significantly lesser than what she was at her peak. Do you think that?
Yeah. And, I think every professional fighter that's been on the championship level that has seen her from the beginning of her career, when she came out moving and counterpunching, she was brilliant And that was what, in 2016 when she made her pro debut? It hasn't been a long time, man. It's been 8 years, but she's been fighting since she was a child. She was a kid. She had all those hundreds of fights as a amateur. Since a pro debut, she's been fighting champion after champion, the absolute best. Every single fight is a hard fight. I mean, she fought Jessica McCaskill in her second, third fight. I mean, that's how her past victories have aged, and that has aged her physically. I mean, I don't like to use the word diminished. I mean, we can use different words. I mean, she's left.
What's a softer word?
She's given too many wars to the sport, man, because that's the way it is. I mean, we got to honor this legend for what she is. I just don't think she has the legs. She doesn't have the jab. She doesn't have the punch resistance. I really don't think she has a lot left.
She's never been knocked down. Like,
a lot of fighters don't get knocked down because they're that good, they're that tough, that they know how to survive, they know how to hold on. I mean, that fight with Amanda Serrano, there was plenty of instances in that fight where she almost went down. She was probably out on her feet. That's how great she is. Why do we want to see her laid out bleeding flat on her back for her?
We don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see
agree
that.
To say, thank you for everything you've given us, but it's time to retire. No, we don't have to see that, man.
Nobody wants to see that, but you're suggesting that there are opponents out there that could do that to her. Now, Chantelle Cameron is the most dangerous opponent available to Katie Taylor because she's big, she's strong, she's got a good jab, and in that first fight, she dictated the pace. She forced the action in the ring. But a rematch with Amanda Serrano, but Katie won that first fight. She took some punishment during that fight, but she also doled out plenty of her own. Alicia Baumgartner, good fighter, but outside of that one punch knockout over Terry Harper, it's not like Alicia Baumgartner has shown fight-changing power since then. Michaela Mayer, not a big power puncher. There are plenty of women out there that she could fight that, while being dangerous in terms of their skills, wouldn't necessarily
why is power the only dangerous trait here, man? Why isn't speed dangerous? Why isn't youth and size dangerous? Why isn't inside fighting and body shots dangerous?
Boxing is dangerous.
Get over it, man.
Boxing is dangerous.
Yeah,
boxing is dangerous in general.
Because it has so many different attributes. Don't just concentrate on the power. There's so many.
But look, Katie Taylor. Hold on, Katie Taylor has been, waiting for these kind of opportunities for some time. Yes, she was a big name coming out of the Olympics. She's a huge name in Ireland, but it took her some time to get to that superstar level where she's selling out Madison Square Garden against someone like Amanda Serrano, where she's doing big gates in Ireland, where she's finally allowed to fight. There's a lot that Katie Taylor still wants to accomplish, and I don't begrudge her that. And I think she can still have a lot of success against some of the opponents I've named. I think she still can beat Chantelle Cameron, which brings me to the next topic. What does she have to do, Sergio, to beat Chantelle Cameron? Because this was a razor-close decision. A couple of rounds Katie Taylor's way, and maybe we're not talking about a rematch because she would have won that fight. What does Katie Taylor have to do different in this one?
Yeah, Katie Taylor almost won that fight because it was in her hometown, in her homecoming. But if that fight was anywhere else, I don't think it was competitive.
It was competitive.
It was competitive because, look, man, I don't want to.
It wasn't competitive because of the judges. It was a competitive fight.
How great Katie Taylor is. You know how big of a fan I am of hers. I just, I also sympathize with great fighters because I've seen so many, get taken by the sport. Beaten down by the sport. I don't want that happen to someone like Katie Taylor, who's given so much to the sport. Now, it's something to say that it took her this long to reach the heights that she finally was dreaming of. And it happens to a lot of great fighters that they don't get that limelight until their mid-30s. But by that time, they just got to cash out, have the biggest possible fights, and then say la vie, man. Thank you for everything.
What do you think she's doing? What do you think she's doing?
Yeah, but it's coming at a physical toll. I think
it always does. You said Andre Ward. Andre Ward, when he fought Kovalev, that came at a toll. That was two grueling fights.
What was his last fight? And what was Andre Ward's last fight?
Andre Ward had some injury issues around then too. There's a lot to get into.
Last fight, Kovalev.
It was the Sergey Kovalev fight, but
when he barely squeaked out that first fight.
That wasn't his last fight. He knocked out Kovalev in his last fight.
Yeah, because he needed to put a stamp on it. A lot of people thought he lost that fight, except me. but he went out on top.
Okay.
That's how
can we get back to the point here? What does Katie Taylor have to do differently to win this fight?
Take away the jab of Chantelle Cameron, have her legs maybe go back in time 2 or 3 years. She's going to have leg work. She's going to have footwork. She's going to have to move around the ring. She's going to have to take away the jab of Cameron by not meeting her halfway. Foot feints, that takes a lot of leg strength. Foot feints, get the jab of Cameron to come in and then double, triple your way back. You got to back up Cameron with jabs. Don't exchange with Cameron. All these things are going to need a lot of stamina, a lot of leg work, a lot of head movement. It has nothing to do with offensive output here. It's going to be defensive output and extinguishing the output of Cameron. That's how you outbox someone like Cameron. You're not going to outfight her. You're not going to knock her out.
No. And I don't think Cameron's going to knock Katie Taylor out either. One thing you didn't mention, which you always mention when there are circumstances like this, the fact that Katie Taylor was fighting in her hometown for the first time. You talk all the time, Sergio, about the challenges of hometown fights. You were just talking this past weekend to Regis Prograis about the challenge of fighting back in New Orleans and his previous fight and how that may have contributed to Prograis not looking at his best. What do you think it was like for Katie Taylor, one of the biggest stars in Irish sports history, to go back to Ireland in Dublin for the first time as a professional and fight? The media obligations, all the things she had to do in the pre-fight buildup, and then to be in the ring, to be in her home country, to do that ring walk. I mean, there were so many things that she could never really adjust to until you're actually experiencing it. I kind of believe that experiencing it for the second time around is going to make her better off for it. She's going to be better prepared for that type of atmosphere, which I think is going to help her in the early rounds. And that's the big key for me, Sergio. Katie Taylor did not look sharp in the early rounds against Chantelle Cameron. She let Cameron dictate the pace of the fight. She let her get back. She got backed up and she didn't let her hands go. I think you'll see a different Katie Taylor in the first half of this fight. She'll be more aggressive. She'll be more on the front foot, and she will let her hands go at a higher volume than she did the first time around.
I hope you're right, Chris Mannix, because I'm a huge fan of Katie Taylor. I just don't see it. I don't think she has that greatness left in her. She has the pedigree, she has the mentality, and she definitely has the heart. But physically at 37 years old, with all those wars that I mounted up, I mean, yeah, man, I wish her the best. I just don't see it because history has proven that it doesn't happen for great champions like this at this point of their career against bigger, younger, stronger champions that have already beaten them the first time around.
All right, let's assume that you're right and Chantelle Cameron wins this fight. The top of the women's boxing pound for pound rankings is pretty well known. You've got Claressa Shields up there, multi-division world champion. Amanda Serrano up there, just crowned undisputed champion at 126. Then you've got Katie Taylor, even despite the loss, considered right there in that mix. Would a second win over Katie Taylor move Chantelle Cameron to number one on the women's boxing pound for pound list?
I don't think so. I mean, what's that one saying? Just because you shoot Jesse James doesn't make you Jesse James. Same thing happens here. Does it make Chantelle Cameron top 3 pound for pound? Yeah, but that top spot still belongs to Amanda Serrano or Claressa Shields, whoever you decide. Them two, because they're still making a lot of waves. They're still making a lot of noise, and they're still holding that top spot. All right, so just because, look at Dimitri Bivol. He beat the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world in Canelo. That didn't make him number 1. He's not even number 2 or 3. That's just the way it is. That's the way the sport is. You have to beat the champ. You have to beat the politics, the rankings, and the critics. So it's a little bit of everything. And I just think Chantelle Cameron won't do that the second time around. Because
okay, but let's hold on. Let's
like
not,
I said, she's not beating her in her prime either.
Okay. Well, let's not act like Chantelle Cameron is a one-hit wonder. She also owns a pretty decisive win over Jessica McCaskill. She fought McCaskill for all the belts at 140, beat her over in Abu Dhabi. So a win over Jessica McCaskill, who at the time was top 10 pound for pound. A win over Katie Taylor, at the time arguably number 1 pound for pound. A second win over Katie Taylor, who is still inside that top 5 pound for pound. Who else is doing that? Who else is doing that, Sergio? Because I get it. Like, the accomplishments of Claressa Shields, of Amanda Serrano are very impressive. But to me, it's about the resume. Who are you beating? Who are the top dogs out there that you're beating? And look, Claressa Shields beat Savannah Marshall. That was the signature win of her career. Before that, I mean, you've got to go back to her pro debut against Franchon Cruz DAZN to find someone that was as credentialed on that resume. Same thing with Amanda Serrano. She's won world titles from 140 down to 115, but that big fight against Katie Taylor, she lost that fight. Fair and square. It's close, but she lost it. Chantelle Cameron, she has those 3 wins on her resume. She deserves to be number 1 pound for pound in my book.
Hey, listen, I'm the former champion. You're the writer that votes. So if you make her number 1, good for you. I just think, you got to respect the females that have came before and have held that top spot for so long.
Yeah, but okay, I'm not disrespecting. I'm not disrespecting them, sir.
Fighters.
Okay, all right, but like who?
And the next in line.
Put it to you this way: who would have the best resume though? If Cameron beats Taylor, who has a better resume than her?
Well, you would probably have to say. I will have to dig down into the records, but. Yeah, if you break down the numbers in the resume, Chantelle Cameron is what she's doing is incredible. Because if you beat Jessica McCaskill, who was undisputed at 147, north of where she fights, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. So you have to break down the numbers.
And McCaskill, Sergio, coming off, 2 good wins against Cecilia Braekhus. Those wins were very good for Jessica McCaskill. So I think her resume is. I think her resume is the best. And to me, resume matters. If you get 2 wins over Katie Taylor, coupled with a win over Jessica McCaskill, you have the best resume in all of women's boxing. You're undefeated. You would have beaten the undisputed champ at 135, even though the fight was at 140. I don't know whose resume is better than that.
If we were just voting on resume, then I would agree with you. But we all know politics behind it. So not yet.